Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here, TK Show, recorded from my home studio with a brand new microphone, which sounds great, just in time for my traditional annual kind of pre-camp conversation with the coach of the Golden State Warriors. That would be Steve Kerr. Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing well and happy to be back on with you. You know, I forgave all other podcasts other than, let's see, I told you that I would do one preseason and postseason. And then I told Zach Lowe that I would do the traditional NBA champion coach goes on the Zach Lowe show at the end of the year. So that one is automatic. So we, if we can find a way to win the title, I got to do that one too. Other than that, I'm pretty much done.
I do appreciate it, Steve. I always appreciate it, and always like the conversation, and that you're doing this one. As you know, as always, I appreciate it. I'm glad to know that we're talking at the end of summer, and it's been such a relaxing, uneventful summer for you. I've seen you everywhere. Let's go back in reverse chronological order, not chronicle. The last big thing, I see you at the Democratic National Convention on that podium. How does that happen, Steve? Like, you get a call from the campaign, you get a call from Kamala Harris's office. How does that how does that kind of process go?
Yeah, so we got back from Paris, 2 days after the gold medal game, and I get back to my house in San Diego, and I'm thinking, oh man, this is great. I'm gonna just rest for the next couple of weeks and do nothing. And I would say maybe 3 days after the gold medal game, like the day I got back to San Diego, I had an email inviting me to speak. It was from Vice President Harris's campaign manager. And so I gave it a lot of thought. I told her I needed, a couple of days to hash it out. I spoke with some people I respect and wanted to make sure I knew what I was getting into. And then ultimately just made the decision that, hey, they asked me to do it. I feel strongly about her winning the election. I think it's important for our country, and I should do it. So yeah, I went for it, and it was almost surreal, a little intimidating. Definitely felt a little like a fish out of water, but I'm glad I did it. They helped me a lot with it. The preparation was great. We did a walkthrough the night before and a rehearsal, and we tweaked the speech here and there, and then ultimately I thought it went over pretty well, and I'm glad I did it, but also glad I'm not doing it again.
You did damn well. I'm not just saying this because you did amazingly well. I have high expectations for you in public, and I think you exceeded them. Like, do you have to clear things with them right now? They have to read the speech, right? There's things that, so you write it and you kind of submit it to them, maybe a couple of days before?
So they told me right away. They said, we have a speechwriter to help you. And so he and I worked on it for several days, and he was very helpful. And once we had kind of a rough draft, I did it. I rehearsed it several times. Then we did a rehearsal, as I said, the night before with several of the people running the whole thing, and we kind of tweaked it from there, and ultimately got to a place where I was pretty comfortable with it. The teleprompters were amazing. The glass ones that are on either side of you. Could not believe the clarity of how easy it was. So, it makes it look like you're actually looking side to side and speaking to everyone, but you're really just reading off the teleprompter. So those things are genius. But yeah, mostly I got good feedback. I did get a few, nasty emails, but that's to be expected, and that's okay. It's all part of it. But I'm like I said, I'm glad I did it, and I do think it's a very important election, and I am very hopeful that Vice President Harris will win, but we'll see.
At some point, does it strike you while you're giving this speech that I am speaking to 60 million people, maybe, 10, only 10 million of maybe even know who I am, 50 million,
That's right.
Does it strike you that just the boundaries you're going over here, the reach you had with that moment?
It did. And they told me that, to try to look dead in the camera, that's where the main teleprompter is. And then occasionally it's turned to side. So every time I look to the main camera, that thought did come into my mind, like, hey, there might be 50 million people watching this right now. So you try to put that out of your mind and just stay with the script and get through it. So I was able to do that.
People have asked me, could you go into politics? I know you said no, probably not. But does a moment like that give you a taste for something? Maybe not running for something, but being part of. You've said issues that you care about. We know gun control and other things, but just being a greater part of the process.
Well, I'm always going to use my voice, use my platform to try to help further the campaign on whether it's an issue like gun violence prevention, which I work on all the time, or an election like this one that I feel strongly about. I feel like I'll always do that. I don't think I'll ever run for office. I love what I do, and this is what I do. This is my entire career has been in sports. I can't imagine. I wouldn't even know the first place to start, running for office in any at any level. But it doesn't really appeal to me. I mean, I like being part of the democracy and part of the process, but that's about it.
Did you clear the night with Steph? That
I did.
I did. I imagine he was okay.
I texted him. He was in Hawaii. He was right after Paris. He went to Hawaii with his family, and I texted him, and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm planning on doing. If I don't hear back from you, and I hope I don't, because you should be in Hawaii, not listening to your coach. But if I don't hear back from you, I'm going to do this." I didn't hear back from him, and so I just did it. I knew he wouldn't mind. And then the night I did it, I got a great text from him. Thanking me for my leadership, but also loving the night. I think he got a kick out of it.
I credit myself sometimes for the questions I peppered you with at press conferences to prepare you for that moment, Steve. It was all to ready you for the crucible. Because if you can stand across from me, you could pretty
much. That's right. That's right. Yeah. No pressure at that point.
Oh, now let's go back a little bit. You got a couple of pretty important basketball games in Paris, or I guess those final two were in Paris. Just take me back to the Serbia game. You're down, 16 pretty early. Nothing's going right. Just doesn't seem like you guys, the tempo was off. What are you thinking? Like, let's say the first half when things in the, nobody can make a bucket. Where's your mindset at that point?
The mindset is this is what we've been planning for, because my experience with FIBA, and I've now coached 4 tournaments, so 2 World Cups, 2 Olympics. The first go around with Pop as an assistant, the second one as a head coach. So my experience is in FIBA, USA basketball, regardless of how talented we are, how good we are, we're going to face 1 or 2 games. The same thing was true with Coach K, during his run. There's going to be a game, maybe 2, and the rest of them are going to be pretty easy. Like we're going to cruise. But because it's a one and done format, the whole message from day one has to be, hey guys, there's going to be a moment where it's going to be hard, and this is why we have to do X, Y, and Z. So everything just went back to the prep, the previous 4 or 5 weeks, what we were working on. That's where your thinking goes. And you trust that the guys, being the champions that they are going to fight and make a run, which is exactly what our guys did. But, as a coach, you're just trying to find the right combinations. Like, who are the right guys to have on the floor right now, and who are we going to count on? And that was our focus. We had to make a couple of defensive adjustments at times, but mostly it was, who do we need out there? Because we got a lot of great options.
Does it go through your mind, oh my God, if we lose, the consequences for yourself or for these players is going to be pretty heavy?
You don't really have time. Of course, that somebody hits a crazy shot and you look up and you're down 15 with 10 minutes, whatever it is. It's like, of course, at some point you're like, geez, we could lose this game, but you can't. If you take any time and go, well, what are the repercussions of this? You don't have time for that. So you just have to move on to the next play. And that's why it's so great having an amazing staff. And I can't imagine a better staff than Mark Few, Eric Spoelstra, and Ty Lue. I mean, these guys are phenomenal basketball coaches and even better people. So much fun to go through all of the work with them and the failure, the summer before in the World Cup. You just want to go to battle with guys like that who just get it. They understand what coaching's about. They understand how hard it is, how much you have to stick together. So they all did that, and the players did the exact same thing. And it was really an incredible experience. I was so blown away by just the approach of these guys. LeBron was, I can't say enough about his approach every single day, the attention to detail, talking in shoot-arounds, making sure everyone's engaged, making suggestions, but at the same time, respecting authority, respecting the decision-making. He was amazing, and he and Steph were really the leaders of our team, and combined, it was incredible watching the two of them operate together, because there's a reason they are who they are. It's not just the skill and the athleticism, it's who they are as people and how hard they work.
Did you go into this thinking it was going to be those two guys? And Durant, I mean, these are guys upwards in the late 30s that they were going to get the bulk of the shots. They were going to get the bulk of the time. They were going to close games. It feels natural now that we saw it, but did you go into this thinking that's going to be the three, or was it a little more fluid than that?
No, I felt strongly that those three guys would be, at the core of what we were going to do. And then we were going to, piece the rest of the group around them. The center spot was, we felt great about our options. I mean, Joel Embiid, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, can't get any better, unless, Jokic decides to become an American citizen. So between those three guys, we knew we were going to have to find the right combinations and minutes, because all three are worthy of plenty of minutes. And we ended up playing Bam and AD together quite a bit, which allowed us to play all three guys. But yeah, we felt really strongly that, Steph, LeBron, KD, this was their team. The team was really built around those guys, and it unfolded right away. It wasn't like we had to do anything for that to happen. These three guys are alphas and champions, and they carry a lot of weight amongst their peers.
You obviously are anticipating a very warm embrace and greeting when you go to Boston this season, I'm sure. Did you know that was going to be a big deal? I mean, you've been picked out, your whole coaching career, and every decision gets analyzed. But that one, when you don't play Jason Tatum in a couple games, I think everyone understood you got only so many minutes, and Kevin Durant, LeBron James are both kind of play his position. And Devin Booker was going to play. Again, we can go through it. But did you anticipate that was going to be did you know when you were deciding to do this, there were going to be some thoughts afterwards, when everyone sees it happen?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's modern media, modern American society as it relates to sports fandom. People are incredibly passionate. And I tell our players all the time, don't complain, because this is what pays our salaries, and so part of being in this position as an NBA coach, as an Olympic coach, we're in the spotlight. So every decision we make is going to be picked apart, but that's just because there's so much interest. So I didn't have any problem with it. I was really impressed with Jason, how he handled it. He is an amazing player and just came off winning a championship, signing the biggest contract in NBA history. And then to face that kind of media scrutiny and questioning about not playing. That's not easy on him.
Yeah.
And he handled it beautifully. For us as a coaching staff, literally the first night that we met before we even stepped on the floor, my message to the team was, let's talk about the elephant in the room. There's 12 of you guys. You're probably all going to the Hall of Fame, and I can only play 9 of you. And the first thing I said was, every game's going to be different. We don't know how it's going to unfold. There might be an injury. There could be this or that. We just have to commit to winning. And the guys did that. They all did that. Every one of them. It was an incredible display of unity and commitment and selflessness. And they all were brilliant.
Okay, let's go back to that Serbia game. Something special happened there, and it seemed to continue into the next game. Steph had not been shooting real well, in the lead up to the Olympics, through the Olympics. I don't think anybody who's followed his career was worried that it wasn't going to happen at some point. But is there a moment in the Serbia game where you're going, okay, I know this is happening now. I've been around. I know this is happening. This guy is going to lead us through this.
Yeah, I mean, first quarter, I think he had 18 or 20 points in the first quarter. So once he gets off to that kind of start, it's like, yeah, this makes sense. Biggest game of the tournament so far, and he found it. And one of the things the coaches all said after that game was that Steph earned that game with the work he had put in the previous few weeks as he was struggling, because after every practice, I mean, you've seen his shooting routine after practice. Same thing, in London, in Paris, and throughout all the lead up, like the work he puts in after practice it gives him the right to get hot like that, and that's what the coaches were saying. Like, this all makes sense now.
So are you going into the France game? Okay, Steph's got it going now. We could find the ball's going to go find him, or is it just, hey, I don't know, who knows what's going to happen, but I like it when Steph's shooting the ball.
Yeah, it's more just who knows what's going to happen. And he actually started out the France game cold. I think he missed his first 3, but I felt really good about that game. I felt good about the matchup. I knew the Serbia game would be the hardest game. We had beaten them twice already, and beating a team that good a third time is tricky, because now they've had a chance to get comfortable playing against you. And, you're not overconfident, but 2 20-point wins against them going into the third game, it's just sort of human nature. You let your guard down a little bit. So I wasn't worried about the France game. I really wasn't. I felt great about the matchup. But give them credit. They played a hell of a game. Wembanyama in particular played his best game by far of the tournament, and they kept us from breaking free. We had 3 or 4 chances to take it from 12 to 15, 13 to 16, whatever it was. We were like 2 plays away from ending it, and we couldn't do it. And they made big plays and hung in there. And of course, Steph bails us out and puts them away down the stretch, and just an incredible display.
Do you think that changes, the historical record for Steph? We all know, first ballot, inner circle, Hall of Famer. We know the most important player in franchise. We know all these things. I know certainly you and I have lived through this, but in a broader perspective, do you think this changes the way everything is, viewed with Steph Curry's career, that he can do this in those 2 moments?
I think it just adds to it. It's just yet another feather in his cap, another example of his brilliance, his greatness under pressure. As if the 4 titles weren't enough and everything else. You throw that on there, Olympic world stage, and playing on one of the all-time great USA basketball teams with LeBron James and Kevin Durant. So for Steph to do that in those last 2 games, yet another example of his brilliance. So you throw it all into the mix.
Does it make you say, hey, I mean, nobody was writing him off for the next 2 or 3, whatever, but in your mind, if he's going to be this could continue because of his greatness. maybe beyond even all reasonable expectation. Like, this guy is still great. Like, I mean, does that
Yeah,
strike you as his coach?
yeah. It strikes me that he's still a great player, and we still have to do everything we can to put the best team around him, and that's what we're doing. That's what Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy are committed to, and yeah, that's what they attempted to do all summer, trying to get another star. Couldn't do that. Ended up getting spending money for three really good role players to come in and solidify our team and give us a lot of options going forward, a lot of flexibility with some contracts. So I love what we've done organizationally, and I think Steph really likes it as well. And I think he's been in the gym the last few days, and fun seeing him, getting to work and getting ready.
Joe mentioned to me a little while ago, you won 46 last year. It wasn't like you were bad. In the standings, it didn't look great, and
Right.
obviously in the play-in, that wasn't great. But with Draymond being suspended twice, with some, certainly there was some thought, issues or whatever way you want to say, where Klay's fit was going to be. Incredible player. We both, Klay Thompson, incredible player, incredible loss. Do you feel this team fits better maybe than it did in the last few seasons? Do you feel like you have kind of more versatility with the pieces you have?
We have, I don't know about more versatility. I just think we have more depth and more good players, more high level two-way players. These new guys have all played in the playoffs. I think the ability to connect the game, which is always something we have to do for Steph, right? If we're going to utilize him on and off ball, we got to have connectors. We got to have guys who can make shots. We got to have guys who can pass. And the guys we added are all excellent players. So you throw three brand new guys into the mix who are really in their primes. It's exciting. And I think we have a chance to be really good. I think we were good last year. You said it, 46 wins usually gets you a 5 or 6 seed. The West is loaded, and it's going to even be better with Memphis getting their guys back this year. So who knows? But I just know I like our team a lot, and I'm excited about our options in terms of putting the team together, because we have a lot of talent, but we have a void too to fill with Klay being gone. But that has to be looked at from a positive light. We have players who can fill that void, but we can also fill that void in different ways this coming year. And I'm excited about that for our coaching staff and our team to figure out.
I don't think I've talked to you since Klay did leave. Steve, at some point, in retrospect, do you think, okay, there were signs during last season that he was ready for a new start, that maybe there wasn't a lot that you could do to change that?
Yeah, there were signs. I mean, obviously, none of us knew what would happen. We all wanted him to stay. I wanted Klay to be a Warrior for life. Felt like the right thing. But you never really know what the right thing is for someone else. Only that person knows. And I think by the end of the year, I think Klay knew, for his own sake, that he wanted to leave. And I'm happy for him. I really think this will be a great move. He's going to play for a great team with some, two high-level creators. You should get a lot of wide open shots. I think sometimes a career change, a late career change can refresh and recharge you. I'm hoping Klay can move on from the injuries psychologically and emotionally, which I think he struggled to do here, frankly. So I think a fresh start is great for him. I think it could be good for us. We're going to, like I said, we're going to have to fill the void that he's left. But as long as we attack it from a positive manner, hey, there's minutes there, and there's also an opportunity to maybe play a little bit differently, to do some different things, and to discover some things about our team. And I think those are all exciting factors that our fans will enjoy.
Basically does open up a starting spot. I know, things change. They even changed last season, but Brandon Pajemski got a lot of starts last season. Do you imagine he's the guy, the leading candidate to take that 5th starting spot?
I think that the exciting thing about this training camp, Tim, is that I can legitimately tell the guys that spots are available, and mean it. Last year we started, at times we started small with Wiggins, JK, and Draymond. Later in the season, we wanted more size. We started Trace. I would say all those guys are in the mix for starting jobs. But so is Brandon, as you mentioned. But the combinations that we have to figure out will determine who starts. So this is not going to be as simple as, hey, Brandon's going to start because he was, our next best guard off the bench last year, blah, blah, blah. It's got to be which combinations work, what makes sense coming off the bench, and we'll have to figure that out the next few weeks.
DeAnthony Melton's a guy, you mentioned him, some of the guys you've added. I've always liked him. Obviously, he's coming off a little injury. What do you like about him? How do you think he fits your roster, your style? He's
a two-way player, which I love. The ability to connect multiple lineups. I think he brings that. He's a catch and shoot guy. So, just watching him scrimmage this past week at Chase, our guys are playing pickup ball as they get ready for camp. I watched him knock down 4 straight threes in a scrimmage, but they were catch and shoot, like no catch and hold. The game keeps going when he's out there. I saw him set a split screen and slip to the rim and, get a layup off a pass from Kyle Anderson. It's like, we haven't even worked on that yet, right? But these guys know how we play. They have a good feel for the game. So I think both DeAnthony and Kyle are going to be really good fits, and I'm excited about them.
I sat down with John Kuminga last week. Really seemed calm and relaxed when I talked to him. Obviously, there's a lot, he's going into the 4th season, hasn't quite established himself in the NBA, has had times when he has really looked good. There's been times he's kind of been out of your rotation. But he mentioned something interesting. He said, I've learned, or he said something, when I was growing up, you don't fight with somebody if you don't like them. And he goes, not that Steve and I fight, but he gets on me because he wants me to be better. Do you think that's clearly been an evolution, right? Your relationship, you've talked about your relationship with John has been an evolution. Where is it now, and where are you thinking he fits your roster?
We have a great relationship. I think JK, if you look at his 3 years here, I think it would look like the stock market over 10 years. There's been some dips for sure, moments where I sat him, didn't play him, took him out of the rotation. But from when he walked in here 3 years ago to now, he is dramatically better. And that's how this is supposed to go. It doesn't, success and improvement is never linear at this level, but especially for someone with so little experience. And, he's still so young. If this were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, he would have just finished his 4th year of college. This would be his rookie year in the NBA, So when you throw all that stuff in, I love where JK is right now. Because he's gotten so much better, but he still has room for growth, which is the exciting part. And so I've talked to him about this year, the upcoming year, what our expectations are, what I'm excited about. He's excited about it. He loves it here. He's told me that. I think the hardest part for him, he doesn't have the extension yet, and he's seen some of the guys in the same draft get extensions, but he understands the business. That he still has some things to prove, and he's committed to going out and doing them. And I'm going to help him every step, and I'm excited about him.
You've said that the minutes are there if he's a small forward, right? You can play him at the 4 or the 3, and in the past you've said he's not a small forward yet. He doesn't have those. That versatility. He said, I'm a small forward, right? I mean, that's what you want to hear. Can you get him into that role? Can you see him playing there this season?
Again, you get back to lineup combinations. He's definitely a small forward if we've got a shooting 5 out on the floor, right? Because then all the skill stuff that you want out of a 3, attacking the rim, getting there. Now you got a spread floor. So if we're playing Trace and Draymond, I'm going to have a hard time playing JK at the 3. But that's kind of what I'm talking about with camp. Like, let's see what happens with Kyle Anderson. Let's see what happens with a healthy Gary Payton. Like, hopefully there are more combinations that we can play this year where JK does play a little bit more 3, and that he shoots it well enough and quickly enough to force defenses to come out at him. And but these are all, these are all areas where it'll unfold. We'll see these things as camp starts and we get into the season.
What actually really about your new coaching, assistant coaches, Terry Stotts, Jerry Stackhouse, 2 of the, kind of more major moves you made on staff in a while. What do you like about them? Can you feel what the chemistry is going to be like already? Is it going to be a little different?
Chemistry is going to be great. I love Terry. I've always enjoyed visiting with him. I didn't know him very well, but I always enjoyed watching his Portland teams. One of the reasons I went after him was because I loved Portland's motion and flow that they ran under Terry, but it was a little more structured, and I'd like to see more of that structure for our team to make the game a little bit easier on some of our young guys. So we're going to do, some of the things that Terry will bring with him. He's also just an amazing guy. Gonna be a guy I really enjoy just hanging with and having dinner with and talking politics and life. And he's a wonderful human being. Jerry, we've missed having a former player on our staff this past year or 2. We needed a guy of Jerry's status and stature, not just a former player, but an all-star. Not just a former all-star, but a former head coach in college for 5 years, a guy who put in the work in Toronto as their head G League coach. Like, Jerry's really sharp, really smart. So he's got a lot of good ideas, good thoughts. He will join forces with our defensive side of the staff, Chris DeMarco, Ron Adams, Jacob Rubin. He will be a great addition to that side of the staff. He'll address the team. He'll be great one-on-one with players, and he's going to bring some new ideas to us. And we already played golf last week, which was fun. And I love Jerry. He's really a good guy, but he carries a really strong sort of approach and persona. And I think the players will enjoy playing for him, and he'll be important for us.
Finally, you and I have talked last dance, not last dance, versions of the last dance. Now you, and it's Steph and it's Draymond, no Myers, no Klay. I mean, does it feel different? Can you formulate what this season, where it fits into this kind of conversation we're always having about this dynasty and what the final years are going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is Mike Dunleavy is amazing. Like, this guy is so well prepared for this job and to handle this particular job. Bob did an incredible job of mentoring him. The fact that Mike was here over the last 6 years, while this thing has been extended and continues on, he's already got relationships with Steph and Draymond and Joe and all of our key people, and he is crushing it. What Mike has done is fantastic, and I love working with him every day. And he's doing a hell of a job of allowing this thing to continue to move in a very similar manner that Bob did. With a dignity, with a communication strength, where the players really respect him, and so he really does remind me of Bob. And then the other factor is, Joe's been here this entire time, and he knows Steph and Draymond. We all know each other so well. We know the one thing with Joe is he wants to win no matter what. And that commitment, it has been so important for us and our organization. And that is never going to change as long as Joe is here. So while we have lost some people along the way, most notably Bob and Klay, to me, it still feels like this thing is going, and we're trying to carry it out, as long as we can.
All right, Steve, it's the very important final segment of this conversation. I've asked you a version of this question. I think this exact question several times before. Steve, what's your favorite book or your book recommendation you got for us?
Book recommendation. I think a few years ago, I recommended an Eric Larson book called The Splendid and the Vile.
Yep.
He has a new one out called The Demon of Unrest. And it's a historical nonfiction that reads like fiction, taken mainly from diaries, letters, historical papers. And it's about Fort Sumter before the Civil War started, and the state of the Union and the Confederacy as the Union divided. And it's again, Larson is amazing to me, the way he weaves all this stuff into what feels like fiction. And I just finished it and loved it. Highly recommend the book.
Excellent. Well, I read The Splendid and the Vile after your recommendation. I loved it. I love the Churchill. You and I think both love Churchill stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That was fantastic.
I love American history, and mostly World War II stuff is probably my most interested that I am. But Civil War stuff is fascinating, and I didn't know a lot about Fort Sumter and what was happening in Charleston. And so this was another good one. You'll enjoy it.
All right, Steve. Well, listen, thank you so much. The tradition endures, the Steve Kerr pre-training camp podcast episode. Thank you as always. And thank you for making the summer worth following. You were everywhere. And I'm sure you can't wait to get back in the routine. Something
no doubt.
Back in the basketball season. And you're going to Hawaii. That's just awful for training camp.
Yeah, it's a tough life. It's a tough
turtle bit. Well, I won't leave it. All right, Steve, listen, thank you so much as always. That's the show for today, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.